Well, Juan, thank you so much for helping my project. I know you do the Curious Astronaut Twitter account and then also the Space Roundup newsletter. Can you talk a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. So I'm a software engineer. I'm based in Madrid, in Spain. And I'm just space enthusiast, I would say. I just enjoy following up with the space race that we are experiencing these days. So I decided to share that excitement with the internet and gather everything that was going on and start spreading this excitement with the rest of the world. And that is why I started that project.
That's awesome. Let's see, I know it's you're in Madrid, Spain, and the Space Roundup's in English. Do you do anything in Spanish as well?
So I have other side projects in Spanish, but I think that for this concrete project, I wanted to make it global because I see there's a lot of information in English, but it is very US centric, I would say. A lot of focus on NASA and SpaceX, but there's a lot of interesting projects going on in Europe, in Russia, and in China too. So I wanted to give it a global spirit, I would say, to the project.
Yeah, that's a good idea. In terms of projects in Europe and Russia that may not be getting as much attention as they should um, in the US and other places in the world, what are some of the first projects that come to your mind that are worth calling out?
So I would say you didn't mention them, but I would say that China is pushing really hard in the space race, and I'm very excited about several of the projects that they're doing. For example, one of the upcoming projects they have in their agenda for I think it is this week or next week is the sample return mission to the moon. So they are sending this robotic mission that is completely autonomous, and they will collect some rocks, up to 2 kilograms of rocks, and then send them back to to Earth from them. And at the same time, they are building their own their own space station. They are sending a robot to Mars. They are starting building reusable rockets to. It's like they are doing everything that the US and Europe have been doing for several decades. They are doing all at once. And I believe that when the Chinese focus on something, they can be really effective. So I'm very excited because that means that we are moving ahead in exploring space, in learning about what surrounds us and our universe. So that is very exciting.
Um, it is exciting, and it's a competition is what kind of pushes ahead, and I mean, it helps you pace yourself and makes everybody go faster in some respects. How soon do you think it might be before China has somebody on the moon?
So I don't know. So according to their plans, they are targeting, I think, the end of the 30s. Um, so I'm not really sure. So given all the political changes that we see in the States, um, all the geopolitical situation in the world right now with COVID and everything, it's like everything is subject to change, and whatever they plan is constantly being changed every week, I would say. So I'm not really sure who's gonna be first to send humans to the moon again. But the Artemis program for the United States, I think, is going to be delayed because of the changes in the administration. So who knows? It's a real race.
Yeah, I wonder how much, aerospace always kind of falls behind a little bit. I mean, you almost never see things make its dates or come in early. It almost always is late. I wonder how much of the COVID situation is really impacting the space programs versus people going, oh, we have an excuse people understand, and kind of using that. I mean, any thoughts?
Yeah, so I guess that the aerospace industry is not very prone to work remotely, and this COVID situation has forced all of us to start working remotely. So I think that that has had a serious impact on the progress. Um, but um, what I'm seeing is a new trend of new companies starting to iterate fast and apply agile methodologies to the aerospace industry, in the sense that there are some companies that are building iterative prototypes and are innovating really fast and are failing fast, and that is new. And I'm talking about not only SpaceX, which is the obvious contender, but other startups in the commercial space that are starting to innovate really fast. So I think COVID and I think the general situation is making us um, be more creative and being more innovative, and that is affecting all industries in general, but the aerospace industry in particular too. So I think that from every crisis there's an opportunity rising up. So I think this is the case too.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, as companies and organizations get used to remote work, if ultimately it may make them more resilient and better in the long term. Whenever you had offices, you were limited to hiring people that work near where you are or would be willing to move. And so that means that you couldn't necessarily get the best talent for a position because maybe that talent's located in a different city and doesn't want to move. But with this remote work, and how much time is wasted in commuting to the office and back, and then how much money is spent in maintaining these office buildings. I, I mean, it seems like this remote work acceptance that has been sort of forced on everybody, maybe it has some strategic long-term positive
Yeah,
implications.
that's for sure. I've been working remotely for 4 years now, so this is not like a COVID situation for me, and I'm very used to this. So every time I need to commute, or every time I just need to take the train or the car, is like how weird this is that people were doing this every day before COVID. So I say it like a good opportunity. But it is true that if you are um, building an engine, or if you are building a rocket, there are some things that you cannot do remotely, right? You can do all the planning, all the design, all the project management, and but there are certain things that need to be for sure need to be do in a physical space, right? So that is why it is especially challenging for that industry.
Yeah, that's true, and that's kind of interesting. So a counterpoint is that, like Boeing and Lockheed and a lot of these aerospace companies have like their engineers in one city doing the designs and what have you, and they send the designs to a technician in a different city who builds it. And, the engineer doesn't know what's technically possible to build. The technician doesn't fully understand like the designs of the engineer, and you have like this delay in terms of the communication between the engineer thinking about the design and the technician that's building it. But
Mhm.
my understanding is that SpaceX, one reason why they're able to go fast is that they have these little work pods where the engineer and the technician are literally sitting side by side, one designing it, the other one building it, and you have this very quick iterative uh, uh, you know, communication between the two. Mm.
Hmm. But I think that is more of a cultural thing than physically a matter about physical presence. In the sense that if you are able to build small multidisciplinary pods of people that work together, it doesn't mind. whether they are sit together or 1,000 kilometers apart. What is really important is that they are working together, they are up to date every day on what they're doing, and they are iterating over the ideas once and over again, instead of this old way of doing things of I spend 5 years designing whatever, and then I throw you my documentation over to you, and then for the next 3 years you will be building it, right? If this is a short cycle by which we iterate every week or every day or every month together, things work much faster. That's for sure. That is what I meant by the agile technologies applied to the aerospace industry.
Yeah, like daily stand-ups and course correction and that type of thing.
Yeah, and you don't need to be in the same room for doing that, right? So that is very interesting.
So you mentioned you're a software engineer. What kind of technologies do you work with?
So I moved away from being a developer to becoming a product manager. So I'm in charge of managing a product, and yeah, I'm working on the big data and text analytics space.
And how did you find out about Artemis and us going to the moon? I know you do the space roundup, but do you remember when and how you found out about it?
um, So I guess it's all over the place. I don't know. It's like, how do you find out about Google? It's like, yeah, it's everywhere. I don't know. When you are interested in space, I think the Artemis program is like the most important project that NASA has been pushing for during the last few years. Um, it was kind of obvious that they were focusing on that a couple years ago, and when I realized that they were building like this small space station around the moon, um, yeah, I started doing some research about it and learning more about it. So to see why they decided to do this instead of directly going to Mars, for example, or to another planet.
Oh, and that's a good question. That often comes up in conversation of why are we going to the moon? What are the reasons that make the most sense to you?
So for me, if I was responsible for sending people to Mars, I would like to beta test somewhere before, right? As someone in the software industry, I would like to have like a small program where I can test that everything is working fine. I can play with it, iterate fast, and then go to the final destination, right? And I think that before going to Mars, there are so many things that we need to figure out that to me, it's kind of a bit of crazy to try Mars first. So what's the best playground for us to test everything? It's like the moon is really close to us. It's uh, far enough that it's outside of the heliosphere, but it's close enough so that we can try things and iterate fast. If something goes bad, it's just a couple days away for a human instead of 3 years away for in the case of Mars. So I see it as a way to iterate fast, to try to see how humans operate in a deep space, how we react to the to the sun, how we react to the differences in temperature, how we gather the local resources to start building the first infrastructure, how we collect or generate oxygen. There are so many things that we need to figure out first. That the moon sounds like totally right to me.
What do you think about the argument of developing some space infrastructure? The ability to make use of the water ice that we found in the permanently shadowed craters and being able to use that to support activities on the moon and maybe further and maybe mining and manufacturing activities on the moon. Uh, uh, do you do you see that as being kind of a useful thing that we should pursue more?
Yeah. So one of the next missions that we are launching to the moon is this Viper rover. I'm very excited about that one because at the end, um, whatever or wherever we want to go, we cannot bring our own resources, right? I mean, we need water, we need oxygen, we need uh, uh, materials for buildings. We need to build everything, and we cannot get our own resources from Earth. It's too expensive. So every progress that we made in being able to generate everything from scratch from local materials is super exciting to me. So one of the devices that the Mars rover is bringing in this mission, 2020 mission, is MOXIE. It's called MOXIE, which is like an artificial tree. It's able to gather CO2 from the atmosphere and generate oxygen. And I'm super excited about that one because it's um, if it works, which is something we need to test yet, if it works, it means that we are able to get somewhere in space and then being able to generate the very first thing that we need, which is oxygen, right? So that would be like a first super important milestone. But then we need so many other things, right? It's like water. How are we going to get water from these space bodies, right? So all the progress that we are making in there is really, really important. And I'm very excited about every small step that we're doing. I wish this was faster because I see that every new mission is like a really small step forward. But I wish this was like every week I want a new mission going there and start producing new materials and producing new stuff that we can then work with. Because even if you are able to find water, you need to gather it and store it, right? So storing it in surface or below the surface, it's always a challenge. So it's not only finding it, which is a massive challenge, it's also how you store it so that you can use it. So, it's like a mission impossible, step up after step.
Yeah, it's really amazing though, with the whole commercial lunar payload services program, the US is going to have two missions to the moon every year for the next 10 years. Robotic missions. Viper is one of them. I think that's scheduled for what, 2023, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so.
Um,
I think so.
and then the Chinese, they're doing about a mission every year to the moon as well. Um, so at least you got 3 of your 12 months taken care of. We just need 9 more missions a year, and we could have something every month. But this past Mars window, we had 3 missions to Mars. Supposed to have 4, but one got delayed. So you're definitely seeing an acceleration, aren't we? Um,
Yeah. But what I see is that most of these missions are just research missions in the sense that they are like the kind of probes that we are sending are just research missions. I'm not seeing any kind of engineering or building or preparing infrastructure, storage facilities, construction of habitats or storage or bases. It's like we are still watching and not doing. And I wish we were starting producing stuff in space and being able to build stuff in space too.
what do you think would cause that change to happen?
That's a very good question. I think it's just a matter of time. We just need to first observe and then use the resources that we find and the knowledge that we have to start executing. I see many challenges in the robotics space. So most of these operations has to be done autonomously. So I see there's a massive challenge in building robots that are capable of operating under unknown circumstances, making decisions, solving problems without being pre-programmed to do so. So there's a very interesting challenge in there. Also in the terms of materials. So, you know, in space, you have these massive weather differences or temperature differences between day and night. So the robots that we are sending or the probes that we are sending to space um, are not like um, earthly tracks or tractors, you know, that are super hard. In space, they need to be really strong. They need to be capable of supporting extreme conditions, and that is very expensive to build and send to be tested on the moon or on other bodies. So I would say that, yeah, artificial intelligence and materials need to make a lot of progress yet.
You mentioned earlier around when you found out about Artemis that it was every place. I also work from home for the past few years, and I created this project to get me out of the house to talk to people in real life. So my plan was to interview people at the coffee shop and at the, at the stores, on the streets, and that type of thing. Just regular everyday people. And
Mhm.
most of the people I interviewed between December and the end of March were in this category. And pretty much most non-space people don't know we're going back to the moon. And I was wondering if you found this to be surprising.
Yeah, I think so. I think the general public know very little about the space program and the progress that we are making in across the world. I think from time to time there are some updates on the news about SpaceX or about NASA, but there's very little general information about what we are doing, why we are doing it, and what are the next milestones. Um, I'm not sure if it is just a matter of interest that general public is not very interested in space exploration anymore, or the fact that we are focused on things that are going on Earth, like pollution, this massive COVID situation, and everything going on, that you don't want to pay attention to things that are outside of your world. Um, so yeah, I think that's a very good question. Do you have any ideas on why this is not being shared with the public? Or
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with how we get our news these days. For you and I, we probably see lots of space stuff whenever we go look at Google News or Twitter or Facebook. But for people who've never looked at a space article before, the thing that's feeding them the personalized news feeds is giving them other information. So I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that back whenever we first went to the moon in 1969, everybody was pretty much looking at the same news sources. And if you got information on that same news source, everybody knew about it. But now we have so many outlets for content, and it's all personalized to what it thinks is going to keep our attention the longest, which means that we don't see things that are generally outside our area of interest.
Hmm,
And I think if I had to say anything was the number one cause, I think that would be it.
hmm, that's very interesting. So that is something that we are experiencing nowadays. That if you are into yoga, or if you are into, I don't know, into cars, all you see around you and all you hear about you is about yoga, because every digital asset is targeted towards your interests, and that is helpful because you get a lot of information of things that matter to you. But I think you get dumber if you only read about stuff that already interests you and you don't open your mind to new stuff, right? So that's a very interesting challenge for the digital space. Hmm.
Yeah, and as a space person, and kind of taking that same perspective and turning it around, what are some areas that you think maybe you're missing out on?
Hmm. So this is something funny because um, what I'm what I'm doing is I realized that I had several of these areas of interest that I wanted to feed myself with. So I started creating different Twitter accounts specialized on those areas. So I have an area of interest, which is economy, investment, money. Then I have space. Then I have startups, technology, and all that stuff. And I was wondering last week. I was wondering what other areas of the universe I'm missing out, because these three or these I don't know 5 or 10 I have them covered, but maybe there's something that I would be passionate about if I knew about it, but I don't even know it exists. And it can be anything ranging from, um, uh, for example, nutrition, how to eat well to feel well, or meditation, how to have peace of mind and how to control your emotions and things like that. Or it can be some kind of new sports I've never heard about that would be amazing to do. So I think that from time to time, it would be healthy for us to make this exercise of exploring new things completely outside of our comfort zone, I would say. So that's a very interesting thing to add to your to-do list.
Yeah, it's almost like could you have a button that says, "Show me the thing that you think I'm least interested in," just so I know what I'm missing.
Boring stuff. Show boring stuff.
Show boring stuff. Yeah, exactly. That way you can see the opposite. Well, if it was safe and affordable, would you go into space?
I'm not sure. I don't think I'm brave enough to do that. I have a family and I appreciate my life a lot. So I think it's a very aggressive environment. Um, so I'm not sure about that. Maybe if we keep making progress like we are doing, when it's getting safer and safer to fly. Last week, I was watching, this Crew One mission, and I was thinking when these guys are launching rockets every week, it's gonna be like taking a plane, right? Take flying in a plane was really dangerous for the first bunch of years, right? And then it became something pretty normal. So I think going to space, it's gonna be something like that, but it's gonna take a while. So yeah, I'll wait for it.
Uh, well, Juan, I really appreciate your time. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't get to?
No, I think we covered pretty much everything. So yeah, thank you for your time.
Well, thank you, and I look forward to continuing to see Space Roundup and the curious astronaut busily spreading additional space news.
Cool. So take care, Nathan, and thank you for everything.
Okay,
Bye
bye,
bye.
Juan.
Bye.